Now we get to dive into looking at the three-quarter pose. So just to recap, we're going to take a look at a work of art that shows you the three major poses. There's also a fourth one, but we're not going to go over that, which is called the two-thirds pose. This painting, done in the Renaissance time period, was created so that you could see the different points of view of the same person. So here is the front in the middle, the profile, which is on the left side, and the three-quarters view, which is on the right. So you have done the front and the profile. Now we're going to take a look at the three-quarters pose. We are now looking at a painting, a close-up of a painting. This is by Ingres, the painter Ingres. And I wanted to share that quote with you about the eyes being the place one looks for the most complete, reliable, and pertinent information. Remember, we've said this before, that the eyes and the eyebrows, too, are very important to a drawing or a painting. It's what captures our attention first. And these eyes are in the three-quarter view. Here's another quote, and this one's by Charles Dickens. There are only two styles of portrait painting, the serious and the smirk. So there are actually more than that, but he does bring up a really good point that there are portraits that are very serious, where people look somber or natural, and then there are portraits that are a little bit more whimsical and relay more of the person's character. So the three-quarters view is one where your subject turns their face slightly in one direction until you cannot see their far ear anymore. So I always look for a portrait that shows more of one side of the face than of the other. That's an indication of a three-quarters portrait. So in this picture, you can clearly see that you're seeing more of the closer side of her face, the side that is in light, illuminated, versus that far side, which is a little bit smaller. This is a dynamic pose, which lets the viewer kind of go into the painting or the piece a little bit more, because you're seeing more of one side of the face than the other. You get a sense of depth with the three-quarters pose that the other poses don't quite have as much. It's more inviting. Oftentimes this pose is the pose that people talk about when they say that a portrait is kind of tracking them with their eyes, where the eyes of the portrait seem to be following you. Let's look at some artwork from some master artists who are using that three-quarter pose. All right, so this is a sketch by Da Vinci, and it's a clear three-quarters because you can see more of one side of the face than the other. The near eye is bigger than the eye that's farther back, and you're seeing only one side of the nose pretty much. You're only seeing one nostril. You can see more of one side of the mouth versus the other. And again, this pose kind of helps to draw the viewer into the scene. Here is another three-quarters pose by a Renaissance artist. You can tell by the clothing. But same deal, where you're seeing more of one side of the face than of the other. The eye that's closest to us appears bigger, and the eye that is farther away is smaller. And same thing with his mouth. You're seeing more of one side of his mouth than the other. You can only see one nostril on that nose. And this is a portrait by Rubens. Here is a portrait by Vincent van Gogh, and this is a selfie. So we are looking at him, and same kind of idea where we are seeing more of one side of his face than the other. You can also tell by the position of his nose. You can see how close his nose is to the side of his cheek on the left side, our left side. And you can also only see one ear. Again, another indication that it is a three-quarters. You can only see one ear and not both of the ears there. And these are all done in different styles. Here's a different style by artist Chuck Close, and this artist is still living, I believe. And again, the three-quarter pose where you're seeing more of one side of the face than of the other. love his handling of the paint. When you zoom in and look at his work up close, it becomes totally abstract. Lots of interesting little pockets of color there. This is another powerful portrait by a contemporary artist who's actually from California and is still, like I said, painting today. And this is a beautiful painting. You can really get a sense of the strength of the sitter, who is the model. This is a different artist. This is Kahinde Wiley, and I want to show you two of his paintings just so you can get an idea of his work. And also, they're both happen to be in that same three-quarter pose that we're looking at. And these portraits actually include more of the upper body along with the portrait too. What we're going to be sticking to, though, is more of the head, neck, and shoulders. So we'll be looking at how to do that in just a moment. So this is basically a mannequin head that I borrowed from online, and it's essentially what we're going to be doing here in a little bit. So I just wanted to show you this is what the head in three-quarters can look like, where it's kind of like an egg but rotated at three-quarters of the way. One thing that I want you to note is there is a dividing line that's running down the center of the face. They're calling it the vertical line, but that's the line that we've talked about before. It's the bisecting line that runs right down the center line of your face. So if your face or head turns or shifts, that line should move with the head turning. So that's why we're seeing more of one side of the face than the other. And that's why when I drew those eyes on there, one eye appears bigger and closer to us, while the other eye is a little bit skinnier and shorter. So that's this really important thing. The eyes still should be about midway in the head, unless you have a looking like you're looking down on the model, or you're from the position of down below the model looking up. You can see that all those proportion rules still apply here. You have to start with the top of the head to the chin to find the middle of the face for the eye line. Then get the hairline in there. The hairline is a guesstimate. And then from the hairline to the chin, divide into thirds to find the eyebrows and nose line. And then to get the mouth, nose line to chin, top third is about where the middle of the mouth will be. So I'm going to be drawing these in here, and I gotta warn you, it's imperfect because I'm drawing using a cursor, and this cursor is not very precise. So this is not the same thing as me actually drawing, it's just to give you a preview. So I'm trying to get that eyebrow in there on the left, lightly in there. I'm gonna see only a little bit of that eyebrow, while the other eyebrow will see pretty much the whole thing. And I'm getting in the nose in there. The nose is similar to how I drew it for the profile. I'm just seeing a little bit more of the top of the nose. And then the mouth is the tricky part. You really want to align that Cupid's bow, that V in the top lip, and also kind of in where the two lips meet. You want to align that with your vertical line, your vertical axis. And again, you should see more of one side of the mouth. In this case, it's on the right side, and less on the left. So this is where it gets tricky. And then I put the eyebrow there on the eyebrow line. And then the ear should go somewhere between the eyebrow and nose, somewhere in that realm. But it can depend if the head is tilted up or tilted down, and the point of view of the photographer. Let's move on to the actual drawing of the portrait. And then please, please, please turn this in for feedback before you draw features. So this is only about the gesture of the head and proportion. Here are some small, quick sketches that you can use as a warm-up before you actually start on your big sheet of gray paper. And I do recommend you do this because the three-quarters pose is the hardest. So I went first with kind of an oval or an egg shape, but then I drew that vertical axis, that center line that's dividing the face in half. From there, I figured out the placement of the eyes, the nose, the mouth. Once you do enough of these, you don't actually have to measure it. You can eyeball the middle of the face, where the eyebrows are going to go, where the nose is going to go, and where the lips are going to go. But if you feel like you're still off, then go ahead and draw in all those features, starting with the top of the head to the chin to get the eye line, and then from the hairline to the chin to get the other features as well. So you can pick a model who is facing more to the left or more to the right. It doesn't bother me which one you choose, as long as you feel some kind of connection or excitement about drawing that particular model. You could even use a picture of somebody you know personally, like a friend or family member. That way you have more of a connection to who you're drawing.